Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we'll learn Masechtas Yevamot daf Samach Aleph. We are going to begin on the very last line on Samach Amud Beis. Tanya v'chein hayu Reb Shimon ben Yochai Yomer. We can do Samach Aleph Amud Aleph. Kiri oivdei kochavim. When it comes to a corpse of a non-Jew, einan metamin ba'oil. So normally when it comes to tumas mace, if a person is in the same room as a mace, so the din is that you're going to be tummy for 7 days, tumas oil. However, that's only when it comes to a Jewish person. However, not when it comes to a non-Jewish person. Shnemar v'atin soin ma risi adam atem. So it says you are likened to sheep, and I am a shepherd, and you are adam. So atem kruyim adam, v'ena v'kachavim kruyim adam. So the word Adam is specifically designated when it comes to a Jew. And in fact, when it comes to Olam Mace, it also says Adam Kiyomas Ba'ohel's quote in Rashi. But we know that when it comes to the captured people from Midian, the Nefesh Adam Shisha Aser Olaf, it says there was 16,000. But the key word is Adam. So we see that Midyanim, who obviously were not Jewish, are still called Adam. It says Mishum Behema. So what does that mean? It says Rashi Mishani Hadikarlu Adam Mishum Deboil Michta Behema Gabayhu. Siva Chamorim Babakar Gabe Behema Mikri Adam. Abel Adam Stamul Mikru. It's just in comparison to animals, because we were giving a total of the amount of captured Midyanim and also the amount of animals, livestock, etc. So in order to contrast that with animals, so then we can say Adam. But just Adam, Stam, in no contrast, we're not going to do. Then the pasuk says, Asher Yeshba Harbe Mishtem Esre Ribua Adam. There's many, 12 myriads of people. Asher Lo Yada Ben Yaminu Smailo, that they don't know the difference between right and left. These are referring to the Anshe Ninveh and the people of Ninveh in the story of Yonah. These were also of the Kachavim. They weren't Jews. So Achar we see Beferish, they're called Adam. Right? So it's again Mishum Behema. Same thing. It also mentions animals in those psukim, and therefore again just Adam Stamanan. And then it says in Bamidbar, Kol Hoirig Nefesh, anyone who kills someone, B'chol Noigeya B'chol Tischatu, and anyone who touches a corpse. So it discusses the dinim of Tumah. Now, when it says Kol Hari Nefesh, this is also referring to Midyan. And there isn't a notion of Tumah Shiva. So obviously you could become Tameh. Where it says, no, Dilma Iktil Chad Misrael. Maybe it's because one of the people was actually Jewish that was killed. So therefore, that's the reason why you're Tumah Shiva. Where it says, V'rabanan lo nifkad mimenu ish. And according to the Rabbanan, it says that no one died. So therefore, it would be difficult to understand it. It just means that no one sinned. Ravina Omer Nehid Dimatin Hukra Miatmui Ba'oil. Dechseb Adam Kiyamos Ba'ohel. Magamasa Mimatin and Kra. All this is coming to tell you is that an Omi Kachavim is not Matami Tumas oil. However, they also trant Tumah by an akum, by touching, or by masa, by lifting it up. So they can become Tameh in that way. Question 9. Kol harig nefesh achol naga b'chol tischato madua hasrichim tefila aliba de Rav Shimon de in akum matamin v'oil hameis de in kroim adam. So the answer is two answers. Either Dilma Iktil Chad Yisrael, maybe it's referring to one, talking about a Jewish person that died, or only Miyut is only for oil, but not for Magan Masa. So you can become Tameh Magan Masa, but not oil by an aqua. Let's see the next Mishnah. Eras es almana. So you have a Kohen that marries a widow, which he's allowed. He just can't marry a divorced woman. Vinis Mana liyos Kohen Gadol, so he's appointed to become the Kohen Gadol. Now, a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry an almana, but he already did erison with her. So yichtais, we allow the process to continue. Umasabi Yehoshua ben Gamla, this actually happened with Yehoshua ben Gamla. Shekidish says Martabas Baitus, that he did Kedushin rather Martabas Baitus, and Uminahu Hamelach Liyos Kohen Gadol v'Kansa, and he was appointed by the king to become the Kohen Gadol, and he accepted, and he continued to marry her. So we say it's allowed when it comes to a Kohen Gadol, when it comes to a regular wife. Shomer's Yavam, when it comes to Yibum, and a woman, obviously, again, her husband died. So in that situation, Shenafel Lefnei Kohen Hedget, now a Kohen Hedget is allowed to do this. However, the problem is, a Kohen Gadol is problematic, as we're going to see in the next Mishnah. Even though Maimer was done, so you would think, well, maybe that's okay because Maimer is like Kedushin. No, he's not allowed to marry her because he is now a Kohen Gadol. And the Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry an Almana. He has to marry a Basula. Tanabanan. How do we know from the base of the Resha that if a person would actually marry do Kedushin while he's a Kohen, and then he becomes a Kohen Gadol, then he can still marry. Yikach Isha. You can take a woman, and therefore it's a reboy to include this situation. Isha Yevama is talking about Stam, a wife, not referring to Yevama. Masa Yeshua, so we saw Masa Shahaya. So Minahu we said that the king appointed him. Nismana lo, if he was not appointed properly, then maybe not. It says Rashi, Nismana lo katani dehavi mashma deroy lakach. So Rav Yosef, Ketir kechazina hacha. We find bribery over here. It says Rashi, Kesher shel Rishayim ani roya kan shelo hayaroy lakach el shenasan mamoin uminuhu. That he gave him money, that's how he became the position. Diamar Ravasi, Tarkava dedinri aila le martabas baisus leyane malka ademoikel Yehoshua ben Gamla bekahani ravrave. So again, we see that there was this unfortunate time in this era of the second Beis Hamikdash where people would become the Kohen Gadol only through bribery and by giving absorbent amount of monies to the king. Next Mishnah, Kohen Gadol shemeis achiv chayletz v'lo miyabim. So the din is that in the event that you have a Kohen Gadol and his brother died, so normally the brother does yibum, but because again a Kohen Gadol is not allowed to marry an almana, so he should only do chalitza and not yibum. So kapasa v'tani loshna min eres loshna min hansuin. We saw this on Daf Chav. That doesn't matter if she died, his brother died, and she's a shemer shavam, and the brother only did ersin or nesuin. Now bishulman and nesuin, which means that she's a ba'ula now because she had tashmish with her brother. So asay, there's a mitzvah asay to do yibum, but it's asay v'lois asehu. There is, says Rashi, it's a losas and asay. Almana lo yikach, basula yikach, v'lo ba'ula. So it's an asay, not taking almana. There's an asay of, you're supposed to take a basula, and if she's obviously a ba'ula, so he's violating an asay and a los asay. So certainly for him to sue the Kohen Gadol should not do. What's the problem? All you have is there's an asay to marry, but there's a los asay of almana likach. So her asay is derech los asay. Right? So zer bia rishon atabi shnia. You're right. The first bia technically would say asay derech los asay, but after the first bia, so then it falls under the category of the isser of the isser. So even though the first time there's an asay of having yibum, but after that first time, then all of a sudden there's no longer a mitzvah asay, and there will still be the los asay remain that you married an almana. Kohen hedgit will yisal ionis. So even a regular kohen should not marry an ionis. Elohim kein yeshlo isha ubanim, unless he already has a wife and children. Why? An ionis is a woman who can't have kids. And mishum de mitzuva perverivia v'huadin Yisrael. Says Rashi, it's not really only talking about a Kohen. Even a non-Kohen is not to marry an ionis unless he already has children, because otherwise he will lose out on the opportunity of the mitzvah puravu. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afa B'Sheishul Ishu Banim Lo Yisa Ayilna Shehi Zayna Hamur B'Torah. So interestingly enough, Rabbi Yehuda is very strict, and he says that this woman is considered to be a Zayna, this Ayilness. We'll see why. And the point is that therefore it doesn't matter, even if you do have children, you do have a wife, you still shouldn't marry her. This is not a Zayna, this woman who's an Ayilness, who is El Giyaris Mishucheres. If you have a Giyaris, a convert or a freed slave, says Rashi, the bias akam eved pasla. We assume that they already had bia before, and therefore that pasled them. Or v'shenivla bias nus. If there was bias nus, for example, Rashi says Yisraelos hanivelas lepasla. Those are cases where the woman is considered to be a zoyna, the din of a zoyna. However, just stam and island is not a zoyna. Again, it's a malchus. We'll see why. So Amalei Reish Gelusil Rav Huna, my timer. So he asked the question, what's the reason? Mishum Puravrivya. The whole issue why you shouldn't marry an idleness is because you can't have kids. Puravrivya Kohanim hu de mifkadi Yisrael lo mifkadi. What, only Kohanim have that mitzvah? It's not true. So why does the Mishnah say Dafka? Seemingly, it says a Kohen Hedget. So the answer is lav dafka. So Emily Mishum de Kabbalah Misli Seifa, Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afal V'Sheish Labanim, Sheish Isha, as we can see Amud Beis, V'Yesh Labanim, Lo Yisa Ayilna Shehi Zayna Hamur B'Torah. The Zayna Kohanim Hu Nemifkadei V'Yisrael Lo Mifkadei Mishum Hachi Katani Kayin. So the truth is, the Reisha, it's not just talking about a Kohen. Even if we're talking about a non-Kohen, cannot marry an idleness unless you have children, because there's a mitzvah to have children. The only reason why I mentioned the Kohen Hedget is to contrast it to the Sefer of Yehuda about the issue of a Zayna. The issue of marrying a Zayna is dafka by a Kohen, but not by a non-Kohen. And therefore that's the reason why I mentions it, but really it's lav dafka when it comes to the Reisha. So I'm Rav Huna, my time, Rabbi Yehuda. Why does Rabbi Yehuda have this strict opinion regarding this idleness? Tachsiv. It says, Ochlu v'lo yispu, eat and not be satiated, hiznu v'lo yifroitzu, and you had znus without, and did not produce children. It means kol bia she'en ba pirza, any bia which could not potentially produce children, enu el bias nus. So therefore, having relations with a woman who's an idleness is bias nus. Tanya, Rebbe Lezer Omer Koyin, lo yiseh sakatana. Now, somewhat similarly, unrelated piece, a Kohen should not marry a katana, a girl who's under the age of 12. Armali Rav Chistel or Rabba, Puk ayin ba, go and look into it. The Urta Boila Rav Huna Minoch is going to ask you a question. Nafik ayin ba, he asks a question. Belezer Savar La Krameir, the Savar Rabbi Yehuda. That's the reason. Answer number one. It's because he holds like Rameir, holds like Rabbi Yehuda. Who's Rameir? Savar Rameir de Chayish Miyuta. We know that Rameir in general is chayish for the miyut. What is the minority possibility? If you marry a katana, you don't know what her status is going to be. So this is the connection to what we saw before. It's possible she may be an idleness. And because we're not supposed to marry an idleness. And that's the reason why Kohen should not marry katana, because it's shaykh that she will actually be an idleness, even though it's a miyut, but Rameir is chayish for the minority possibility, for the minute chance of her being an idleness. But if that's the case, you're married to a Zayna. Kohen can't marry a Zayna. Ukra Meir and me savar law, does he tackle hold like the shit of Rameir? Losanya, katan ukatana lo cholzan vo miyamen, de Rameir. So it says when it comes to a katan and a katana, both chalitz and yibum should not take place. Well, again is because of it's possible that she's an idleness, maybe he's a seris. Armulol Rameir Yafa Marta. I understand what you're saying. Shein Chayiltzin Ish Ksib Parsha Umarshin Ishal Ish. When the pasuk talks about chalitza, it says it's in ish, which is excluding a katan, and we make a hekesh ish ish. So therefore, when it comes to chalitza, I agree with you that they should not perform. El my time in miyavmin. Why don't we allow yibum? So malay katan shemimatzis sris, because maybe the man is not capable of having children. He's a sris. Katana shemitamotzei ayilnas. V'nimsu poigin be'ereva. It ends up there being poigea be'ereva, because they really were not allowed to be married. It says Rashi, Yivan Dalab b'nei hakamas shemninhu pogabeshus ach shel b'makam mitzvah. So the only reason why is dafka in a situation where it's shaykh to be able to have children. But if you can't have children, then there's no heter of marrying your brother's wife. So that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. V'tanya katana misyavemes v'enuchaletzes divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer disagrees and Rabbi Eliezer allows the katana to do yibum. Clearly, he's not chayish for the miyat that she'll be an idleness. So we see clearly that Rabbi Eliezer does not hold like Rabbi Meir. So we said Rabbi Eliezer said like Rabbi Meir. What do you mean? He argues with Rabbi Meir right here. So and also Rabbi Yehuda misavra. And also we're going to see he doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Losanya zayna kishma. When it says the word zona, it's referring to like its name, someone who wandered off. Debi Rabbi Eliezer. Now that's not referring to an islandess. He would not hold an islandess as a zayna. It means someone who literally like went off the derech. Rabbi Kiva Omer zayna zu mufkeres. This is someone who's lived like is hefker, ownerless. Rashi says v'afil penuya, even a woman who's not even married. Ramasya ben Charasha afil halach bala lashkaisa. If even let's say her husband goes to give her the mesaita because she was suspect because she was locked up with another man, ubal habaderech, and the husband has tashmish with his own wife on the road, as zayna. That also makes her into a zayna. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and here's the key, zayna zu idleness. So Rabbi Yehuda says it's an idleness, which again is not what Rabbi Eliezer had his own opinion. He said before that zayna is zayna kishma. So obviously he doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda. Chalam Omer ein zayna el giris meshachareres v'shenivula be'eznos, which we saw in our Mishnah. Rabbi Eliezer Omer panui haba panuya shlishim ishus asui zayna. So we see actually according to Rabbi Eliezer, he says even if you have a non-married man with a non-married woman, but they're having relations with shlishim ishus, that also makes her into a zayna. But again, we clearly see that he doesn't hold like the shita of Rabbi Yehuda regarding an idleness. So what's the reason why he makes this statement? Why in fact does he say this din that a kohen should not marry a katana? So El Omer Rav Adam Bar Ava Hacha b'Kohen Gadol Askinan. Here we're talking about a Kohen Gadol. Amos Kanilos. The question is, when did the Kohen Gadol marry her? Because typically we understand a Kohen Gadol marries a woman when she's a naira, between 12 and 12 and a half. Once she becomes a bogeres, as we saw before, it's potentially problematic because mixas besulim, she loses some of her besulim. And therefore the question is, does she have to be a complete basula at that time? And as a katana, we're also saying he's not allowed to do. The question is, when was he kaina? If he actually was kaina her at the time that she's a gedoyla, that she's a ba'ula, she's not considered to be a basula, which she's not allowed to do. So Amar Rava, he says, Mikali Lev, the fluttering of the heart, idikit shuavua. If, let's say, the father was one that did the kedushin for the katana, that she, in that case, it's a din deraisa, as biti nesati shazeh, miyahi shaita hudikanila. So it's actually a kinyan right away. He should be allowed to marry a katana because the father, it's actually a real kedushin. V'idi kitchu nafsha, if she did it herself, how Rabbi Eliezer hivul rabbanon. This is Rabbi Eliezer, not the rabbanon. What's that? Says Rashi, bitmia. Deitani le'el, Rabbi Eliezer oimer kohen liyiso as a katana. Rabbi Eliezer says a kohen should not marry a katana. U'mashal b'tpulig rabbanon leha, which is mashal rabbanon disagree. But kohen gadol mi polig rabbanon. Are the rabbanon really going to argue with that? If she did it, it's not a kedushin, right? Right. So el oimer rava oilam b'kohen hedget. Who's not allowed to marry a katana? Even we're talking about a regular kohen. So what's the problem? Maybe she will be unfaithful to her husband, says Rashi. She doesn't have das. She's a katana. And she ends up having someone's mafat to her. So that could become problematic. So what do you mean? Wouldn't that be a problem if someone's mafata the wife of a Yisrael? No, pitui katana oinasu. The din of being mafata katana, it's like statutory rape. It's ma'anis because she's not a bas das to make decisions. So it's like you're ma'anis her. But oinis b'Yisrael mishashari. So the whole issue of oinis is daf when it comes to a kohen, but not by a Yisrael. Rapapa oimer b'kohen gadol. The high tanahu. Actually, we're talking about a kohen gadol, and it's the following time the sani basula. He's supposed to marry only a basula. So yachol katana, maybe while she's a katana, talmud isha, she has to at least be older. Isha yachol bogeres, talmud basula. If she's a bogeres, she's no longer to have all of her basulim. So Kate said yasam mechal katnus mechal bagrus lobasa. We're talking about a woman who's no longer katana, but she's not yet a bagrus, which means she must be a naira. Rav Nachman Yitzchak Omer Hai Tanahu the Sanya Basula in the Basula in Basula Ein Basula El Naira V'chenu Omer B'Hanara Tabasmar Ma'oid Basula Rabbi Lezer Omer Panui Habal Panuya Shloshim Isha Sasa Zaina. So Rav Amram in Halacha Rabbi Lezer Halacha is not like this. We're going to stop there. Let's see a couple questions. Question 10. Mehema tamim huskar b'gemara shel aser kiddush katana l'koyin hedget afil kidsha avia. So this is also TA 14, and the answer is either because he holds like Rameir, who's chayish l'miyut, maybe she's an islandess, and an islandess is a zayna. Alternatively, we're concerned that maybe someone will be mafat to her as a katana, and that is considered to be like ma'anis, a woman, raping. And the din is that such a woman, the din is she would be usher to a kohen. Okay. That was TA 14. TB 15. Matam der belezer maskana the kohen hedel yisa katana. So he said the same answer. Adkan.